Welcome to Titan Upload Live. So glad you're here to join us here on a Tuesday night to talk Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. I know some of you in the chat were wondering about the defensive coordinator, and at this point, I will, at the end of the show, give my 2 cents on it, but this one is pretty much narrowed into specifically the offense and just trying to do my homework with all that's being said and all that kind of good stuff. So, the ultimate question for today is who will replace Arthur Smith? But before we start the show, we have to shout out A.J. Brown, who is reportedly going to be shut down for the season in week 2. Decided to play, or decided to at least give it another go, whatever you want to call it. But A.J. Brown put up 1,000 yards on 2 bad knees. And prayers up to A.J. Brown, who just had surgery on both knees. Apparently put it on his Instagram. Shout out to Ken Moore for informing me what was going on. But, man, to go back and think about A.J. Brown playing on 2 bad knees, we all thought it was the ankle at the end. But hopefully he can come back better than ever for next season. So if you're watching, A.J. Brown, shout out to you. And thanks for all that you've done for the Tennessee Titans. The offensive coordinator position is a lot bigger than what people think. Hear me out on this one. The Tennessee Titans have a 2 to 3 year window to win the Super Bowl. Why only 2 to 3 years? Well, 3 years under contract now for Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. But the way running backs are, the way they're built, they don't last long. Derrick Henry is going to try to defy the odds just to give us 3 solid more years. I think he could do it, but I'm just cautioning you that the Titans, realistically, with their window before they have to re-sign A.J. Brown and all this other stuff, it's 2 to 3 more years. With that being said, they got to get it right. They got to get it right. If they do not get the offensive coordinator right, this could set us back a season. Mike Vrabel is a great coach, maybe not a great defensive coordinator. Maybe he should have kind of figured that out throughout the season with Bowen and all that stuff. But he's not an offensive guy. And if you hire within and you don't really replace anyone with experience, you're basically giving the keys to the castle, keys to the kingdom to an unproven coordinator. Okay? So this is bigger than what people think. Like, if we get this wrong, this could literally set us back a year. And when you only have a 2 to 3 year window guaranteed, you can't take that chance. So a lot of you feel the best way to go about this is to hire within because they know the scheme. But in reality, that could be more, because if this doesn't work out, let's say you name Pat O'Hara the head coach or the offensive coordinator. If he doesn't work out, who's going to help fix this? Vrabel can't, right? Vrabel can't do it. He's not an offensive guy. You would literally have to call in a consultant on offense to fix the issue. Sure, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, those guys are studs. A.J. Brown. But there are some issues with the offense. Arthur Smith left. 2 good seasons. I will argue this year was just phenomenal. Best ever for the Tennessee Titans. But if you really break it down, went to the playoffs, you scored 13 points. You couldn't make adjustments. So you're going to replace Arthur Smith with someone on staff who couldn't help make adjustments? Again, I'm going to make a case. All right? I'm going to make a case. You guys all make valid points. We'll definitely get to the bottom of it. But there is a reason why I think Coach Vrabel is going to hire not within on offense. He's going to go out and find his coach. Go back to when Vrabel gets hired. Who was the first person on offense he reached out to? Ryan Day at Ohio State. And he tried to bring Ryan Day in to basically run the offense. And at that time, Ryan Day was just getting his feet wet with Ohio State with the offensive coordinator position, or co-offensive coordinator. Bringing in Ryan Day was kind of his main objective. Ryan Day said no. So where'd he go? I think he was pushed. Hear me out. I think he was pushed. John Robinson got involved and said, you know what? Matt LaFleur is your guy. We need a offense. We need someone to work with Mariota. Bring in Matt LaFleur. He'll be a game changer. Well, that didn't work out very well, did it? A guy with, again, not really much experience. He didn't even call the plays as the offensive coordinator with the Rams. That was Sean McVay. So what happened? He wanted, all right, when Matt LaFleur came to the Titans, he wanted to replace Derrick Henry with Deion Lewis. Yeah, how'd that one work out for you? Well, worked out great for Matt LaFleur. He's on to the Packers, and he possibly could be going to the Super Bowl. I actually hope Packers win. But, man, you knew right away Vrabel was going out. There was no one really within to hire within other than Arthur Smith, who was still on the staff. Go back to 2019 when we put Arthur Smith in place. We hired within. Was there expectations we were going to win the Super Bowl that year? No, we were still going with Mariota, trying to figure that out, trying to figure out if our identity on offense could be behind Derrick Henry. So we went with Arthur Smith. If the window was great to win a Super Bowl then, I can argue they wouldn't have went with Arthur Smith. They wouldn't have gave him a chance. It's a good thing for Arthur Smith they did, because now he's the head coach in Atlanta. But this thing is deep. So we've already reached out to the Clemson offensive coordinator. And many other teams did too. What's his name? Tony Elliott? And he said no. He's staying at Clemson. As we're breaking this all stuff down. And again, my argument is this. We got to get the offensive coordinator position correct, because I think the window's 2 to 3 years here. Okay? And there's a lot of issues right now. We scored 13 points against the Ravens, which had a tough defense. But they literally crowded the box and said Derrick Henry's not running on us. Not every team can do that. But you know they're going to try to copy that. And we got to be ready. In that playoff game, let's be honest, we didn't have any other alternative outside of the first quarter. It was an epic failure as far as trying to transition away from the game plan. And we didn't make adjustments. Let's just call it for what it is. So, top 5. Can't wait to hear from yours. Here we go. Number 5. You ready for this? Number 5. Boom. Keith Carter. Hiring within, baby. Vrabel, let's go. Okay. So Keith Carter, why Keith Carter makes sense. And there's a reason why he's obviously the 5th choice. I want you to take this into account, please. For all the people that are saying, hey, upload, hire within. You got to hire within. As I go through these guys, we'll go back to Keith Carter and we'll compare. Assistant offensive line coach for 2 seasons with the Falcons. He's a running backs coach for 1 season with the Falcons. Then he came to Tennessee. And he's been the 3 seasons as offensive line coach. Here's the good thing with him and why he makes the top 5. 29-19 record as an offensive lines coach. That's a good thing. So some people on Twitter will say that he makes sense because, you know what, he knows the schemes, he knows the blocking strategies, and he knows the movements and how they change, and you know the formations, and he's got to know all those spots. He's got to know a tight end spot, especially for how valuable the tight ends block for the Titans in Atlanta. But I just want to go back to memory lane. Remember his first season when Vrabel made him offensive line coach? Our offensive line was a train wreck. It was awful. It was bad. And the one thing I remember on the show, we would call him out. We wanted him to be fired because nobody on that offensive line was improving. Nobody was getting better. We were making arguments that season that some of the players were getting worse. Now, your argument for Keith Carter could be, well, maybe it was just Marcus Mariota. Maybe he was the problem. And once he left and Tannehill came in, everything clicked and it was fine. Whatever. You can keep that point. It's fine. It's a very, even though I really like Marcus Mariota and I don't think he was just the problem, but you have a valid point there, and it would be very hard for me to completely argue that or discount that, right? I'm not going to agree with it, but it's hard for me to discount it. But when you look at Keith Carter, if you get it wrong, and I'm going to go back to the main screen, if you get it wrong, who is on the staff that's going to help you? That's the concern. That's why he's 5. Who on the staff is going to step up and make in-game changes? Who on the staff is going to know more than Keith Carter? You know, you going with the quarterback's coach? I mean, is he a possibility? I mean, when you go back, he's more arena football. So, again, Vrabel can't help. Your offense depends. You could say the wide receiver coach and more. He's an option. He's a younger guy. Maybe he's got a little bit more creativity. I guess that's an option. But Keith Carter's probably your best choice if you're going to hire within. And my only argument against it is there's just not enough experience on the staff. There's not that old, wily veteran there who can be the assistant. If you bring Keith Carter in, then you might want to bring someone else in. And again, your point will be this. Well, upload. We did the same thing with Arthur Smith. There was nobody else to help him if he failed. And you're right. There's a difference, though. When Arthur Smith was hired, there was no expectations of going to the Super Bowl. We were hoping just to get to the playoffs. And Arthur Smith went 9-7. He grew. He learned into that role, and he got hot in the playoffs. We're beyond that now. We're a top 6 offense. We went to the playoffs against the Ravens. Best offense in Tennessee history. We got shut down. 13 points. Scored 10 points early. Took away Derrick Henry. We couldn't come up with anything else. It's hard to go back and watch that game. Go back and watch the game. You'll know what I'm talking about. It was a struggle to get yards. It was so much a struggle in that game that in the second quarter we got -1 yards. It was tough. No adjustments. Keith Carter was there. That's my point. That's why I would not hire Keith Carter, but he does earn my number 5 spot. Whether I agree or you don't agree with me or I agree with you, whatever the case. So here we go. Number 4. Well, no, not Keith Carter. Boom. Bill Callahan? Upload, you're nuts, right? Bill Callahan. Oh, my goodness. You're going to make a case for Bill Callahan. Yep. I'm going to make the case. Here we go. Anyways, has had coaching experience. So he's been the coach for the Raiders. He wasn't awful there. He wasn't awful. Then he went to Nebraska. I'm sure he didn't do well at Nebraska because nobody's really done well at Nebraska since they were a powerhouse. And he's been an assistant, 7 years as an offensive coordinator, Philadelphia, Oakland, Dallas, Washington, Cleveland. So let's talk about this, why this makes sense. You guys are already calling me crazy. This guy is a true warrior talent. I'm talking about a guru as far as knowing the game. Now, you can say maybe he's outdated, and maybe you can say some things as he's failed in certain areas that he's been in, but I'm going to go off of what he did last season. Last season for the Cleveland Browns, this guy, Bill Callahan, was the offensive line coach. And if you guys realize that offensive line in Cleveland is pretty good, right? Top 3 in run. Yes, they have Chubb and that kind of stuff, but still. Look what happened to Conklin. He was an all-pro here in Tennessee, got hurt, went to Cleveland, becomes all-pro. They had more Pro Bowlers than the Titans did because we had 0. I'm telling you, Bill Callahan works with the Cleveland offense. Cleveland wasn't just run first. Here's why I love Bill Callahan for real quick. He gets to work with some of these guys. And I think this guy's I think he's rejuvenated to be in the role, but he's a coach that doesn't give up. I mean, this guy could have gave up when he was fired from Nebraska. This guy could have gave up when he was fired from the Raiders. He doesn't. He just continues to stay in the league. 7 years as offensive coordinator. He was with Dallas when they were 12-4. I don't know why they let him go, but he was 12-4 with Dallas. The deal is this. He's worked in key areas. Again, Cleveland. Just to go on Cleveland, right? Cleveland comes into Tennessee with the number 1 rush offense at the time. And they looked at the Tennessee Titans and they said, yeah, we're not going to run the ball against the Titans. We know they're vulnerable in the pass rush and they can't stop the pass. So we're going to put Baker Mayfield in there. We're going to throw it all over the yard. Halftime, 38 stinking points. That is enough of a reason than anything to put him on my list because he's a part of the scheme. He is. So again, I understand you guys might be like, Bill Callahan, whatever. This is an awful pick. I'm telling you what, you are in a season where you got to get it right. If you go with Callahan, you can do a lot worse. You can keep Keith Carter. Who knows the offensive line better than Keith Carter does? So if your argument is, oh, well, Keith Carter knows all the schemes. He's an offensive line coach, blah, blah, blah. Look how many years of experience. I love the college aspect of it. You're talking about offensive coordinator. You're talking about a guy who's not going to be afraid of Vrabel. He has the head coaching experience. He's got more head coaching experience overall than Vrabel does. Yes, Vrabel has more for the Titans, right? Going on what? Season 4, is it? Roughly? Season 4 for Vrabel? But he's got head coaching experience in college. He's got head coaching experience with Oakland. He's been the offensive coordinator for Oakland. Thinking about how many quarterbacks the guys work with. Again, when you look at it, thinking, wow, like, can I really make a case for this guy? And the more research I did, he definitely transforms the offensive line. Yes, you could argue that Chubb was the leading rusher other than Derrick Henry the year before. But I think a lot of this stuff starts up front. And what I love about this guy, too, is you're dominant. His go-to is run. His go-to is offensive line. And what do we do best? We have a 2,000-yard rusher. That's what we do the best. And he also found a way to mix in Hunt and also to mix in Chubb. So I think he would do a better job, what he learned in Cleveland, to kind of switch it up. Trust me, just because you fail at something doesn't mean you're awful. Look at Abraham Lincoln. It was just Martin Luther King Day yesterday, right? And Martin Luther King quotes Abe Lincoln. Why would the king quote Abraham Lincoln? Go look at the stats on Abraham Lincoln. That guy failed at literally everything and multiple times. And then he may be considered one of the best presidents ever. Ever. So that's my point. Just because you fail, this guy just keeps getting on. Keeps trying. Again, Bill Callahan, are you in? You out? You guys are probably out. I get it. I'm sorry. Here we go. So I got this. Look at some guys he's worked with. Jay and John Gruden. Jason Garrett, who's now the offensive coordinator for the Giants. The one I love. He employed Jim Harbaugh, by the way. I can't believe I forgot that. But the one I love about this, who's one of the hot young coaches right now? Who's one of the coaches that a lot of people are looking at like, wow, they're doing really good. They just took a team who hasn't done crap in forever to the playoffs and won a playoff game against Pittsburgh. Kevin Stefanski, that's who. So I think he's learned a lot from Stefanski, and I think he learned a lot at Cleveland that he could use for us. Yes, he's 4th on my list. Carter's 5th. You telling me Bill Callahan's not better than Keith Carter? It's just my point. So I know I'm going to get I wasn't sure how that one was going to go. But like I said, I do like the O-line experience. I like the experience in general. He's got the head coaching experience. He's got the regular experience. I actually kind of like Bill Callahan. If you want to be more conservative, you want to focus on more improving that offensive line and improving your run game. But towards the end there, Tannehill was getting a lot of heat. So it would be nice to have a guy that maybe could help a little bit and give some assistance to Keith Carter, although I think Keith Carter did a really, really good job this year. All right, so that's number 4. All right, so we're gonna move them along here. So after 4, number 3. Oh, I'm probably losing you now, ain't I? Number 3, Matt Weiss. Now, why does this guy make sense? Well, honestly, the only experience, this is my shot in the dark. This is a guy, because, to be honest, I had other guys at 2, but the 49ers brought him up for offensive coordinator. I had Kafka in there, but he's going to stay in Kansas City. So Upload's trying here. So I went with the next best option out there, I feel like, and I don't think he'll leave. I think he'll stay in Baltimore. But this guy is Vrabel's guy. This, if I was going to pick one guy for Vrabel, this is the guy. Walsh, I see. I'll get to your comments. But Vrabel, this is Vrabel's guy. And the reason why this is Vrabel's guy is because this guy literally coaches everything. And there is a Nashville connection, by the way. You guys, if you know the connection, go ahead and put it in the comments, put it on the screen for you. There's actually a couple connections to Nashville, and I think it'd be quite interesting. It's quite interesting, too. So even though the guy, I think, was born in Connecticut, there is some Nashville ties here. Now, with Matt Weiss, why I like it is because, yes, it's a shot in the dark, and maybe at the end of the day it doesn't work out. And I just told you, like, if this doesn't work out, but again, a lot of you are like, hey, let's just hire within. Okay, if you want to hire within, here is a young and up-and-coming coach who could be the next big thing, right? And the reason why I say that is because, yes, this guy worked with Harbaugh as a grad assistant at Stanford, so he's worked with him for a couple years, and you guys will say, well, maybe Jim Harbaugh is not the best option, best coach out there. I get it, but still. But here's the thing. When he worked in Baltimore, he didn't just do offense. He worked with he was linebackers coach. He was cornerbacks coach. He was the defensive quality coach, right? That Keith Carter was the offense. He was the defensive guy. He's worked with defense a lot. So why would you want him to be the offensive coordinator? Because he does a lot on offense too. And at this point, he is the running backs coach over the last couple of years. I mean, this guy, if you think about it, when he was linebackers coach, they had Elvis Dumervil set the record for 17 sacks. And then they also had Suggs on the other end. They combined for 29 sacks. Heck, I might hire this guy to be our defensive coordinator. Why it makes sense, though. Why I think this is Vrabel's guy. Vrabel always speaks about one thing. Versatility. He loves versatility, right? He was a versatile player. He played offense. He played defense. He played special teams. This guy coached special teams and defense at Stanford, right? I know he was just a grad assistant, but he was around the meetings and all that. And then he blossomed and he got a chance in 2009, and he's been with the Ravens ever since. And you got to remember, that's the year after we lost to the Ravens in the playoffs in 2008 when we got upset by Flacco and company. He's been around Ed Reed. He's been around Ray Lewis. I mean, he's been around a lot of these guys. And not only defense and offense, and why I like this option actually is kind of like a shot in the dark, so to speak, is for the simple fact that he sees it from different points of view. Him working with the defense and knowing different things on corners, knowing different things on linebackers. You can't tell me that if you're calling offensive plays, that can't come in handy. That's why this guy is a stud. This is one of those guys that I could have put him number one. I really could have. He just doesn't have the overall experience for me with multiple systems. He's kind of been glued into that Raven thing, and I don't think he leaves the Ravens because a lot of those Raven guys, including their current GM who replaced Ozzie Newsome, was obviously a target even the Titans were trying to bring in, but he never wanted to leave. The Ravens do a really good job with keeping their coaches the best that they can, and they try to find different ways and different avenues. But I'm telling you what, if Vrabel wants to roll the dice and try to get it right, because we know Matt LaFleur didn't get it right when he came here. Yes, he got hired somewhere else, but the fact is he still thought Deion Lewis was better than Derrick Henry. This one might make sense. So tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Baltimore, a lot of these younger guys know what they want. They're not, but here's the thing too, and I didn't make this point earlier. When we're trying to figure out a replacement for Arthur Smith, remember, the Tennessee Titans are going to be able to attract some of these guys. You don't need to hire within. The Tennessee Titans have Derrick Henry, 2,000-yard rusher, Ryan Tannehill, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and A.J. Brown. And Taylor Lewan's a really good left tackle. The Titans have a lot to offer for somebody. And you can go out and get them because we're in an attractive situation to be in. Now, I know there's been some bad blood with us and the Ravens, but I'm telling you what, you look at the Titans' 2 previous offensive coordinators, they're both head coaches. So if Matt wants to be a head coach, maybe there's an option there, right? All right, let's move on. Number 2. Oh, you're going to love number 2. I'm going to argue number 2 should be my number 1. But the only reason why he's not number 1 is because he's been linked to only coming back with one coach. And I just don't think it's a realistic chance we get him. And I don't know the relationship between him and Vrabel because of him and his head coaching experience. Don't be fooled like I was. This guy wasn't even on my top 5 list. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to research him. And this is a perfect time to say, hey, I think Bill Callahan, even though you guys think he's too conservative, I think he learned a lot last year with Stefanski, and I think he's going to be able to use that moving forward. Then we move on. Hey, Broshmo's in the house. What's up, Broshmo? Thanks for the super chat. There's a fan-to-fan network guy. Awesome. Broshmo's coming on the channel, too. I don't know why he's super chatting, because Broshmo's coming on to go over the draft. So, yeah, if you want to know anything more about the draft and all that stuff, head over to Broshmo's channel. I'll put him up on the screen right away. And his comment says, love to see some good football. He says, how about Anthony Lynn? Not a fun-sounding choice, but a lot of success as Bill's offensive coordinator. And that was one I came into, him and Peterson as maybe an option here. But I don't know, Broshmo, if you'll agree or disagree with this. I think sometimes when head coaches get fired, they like to take some time off. And I don't know how much was left on his contract, and I don't know what happens if you come as an offensive coordinator, if that takes away from your, like, for example, if you get bought out or you're being paid, because like Mike Munchak was being paid by like 5 teams, I think. So probably that is the case, that you would continue to get paid. You double up on your salary a little bit. The one thing I would say with the Titans is, we just mentioned, it is kind of an option if you're looking to get back in the game. But here's the thing. If you come in as a head coach last year, whether you're the Eagles, whether you're coming from obviously the Chargers like Lynn was, you could, I don't know, would you rather go somewhere and build it up again? Or do you go somewhere where it's already at the top? Because really, if you're already at the top, unless you win a Super Bowl with the Titans, doesn't it kind of go down? And then it will be seen more as like, hey, look, he went there, they were top 6. And then that would be the only scary thing with some of these real coaches who have had the head coaching that just lost their job. But that is Broshmo for you. Great guy, great content. Go check him out over there. He's part of Fan to Fan Network. But, yeah, he will be on here to break down the draft. I don't know when that's going to be, but hopefully soon. So thanks again, Broshmo. All right, so let's get into this. So we had number 4 was Callahan. Number 3, Matt Wise from the Ravens. We're at 200 right now, so shout out to you guys for being with me here. So let's get to number 2. I think I'm going to really, this is crazy. But you know what? I got a reason for my madness. And I got to find my stats on him because, oh my. Again, I did not have this guy on my list whatsoever. And by the way, did any of you, I didn't even look. Did you guys know that Matt Wise played college football at Vanderbilt? You guys know that or not? I'm not sure if you knew that or not. But, yeah, he played actually at Vandy. He's got that going for him. All right. So, anyways, let's find number 2. Here he is. Oh, I can't wait for this one. You got to hear me out, though. You got to give me a chance, right? I give you guys chances all the time. But, again, you got to give me a chance here. And I can't wait to get into your comments on the Callahan thing. So, here we go. Number 2. Oh, I can't wait for this. Maybe we should take another break. Let's call it. No, I'm kidding. So here we go. Number 2. Oh, and this could be number 1. I'm telling you. But number 2. You just wait. I'm gonna get you to believe what I see. I'm telling you. You just gotta hear me out. Hugh Jackson! What? Hugh Jackson, really? Some of you forgot Hugh Jackson was still around, right? Because after he left Cleveland, some of you thought he'd never get a chance again. He's been out a while. But that's what I thought. I want to get to some of these comments. Hugh Jackson before I make my case. I got no comments on Hugh Jackson. Gerald said not going to happen. You guys are talking about Lawrence? Oh, my goodness. You guys not fazed at all by Hugh Jackson? Platform Drop says I'm out. He grows. Okay, here, I'm gonna win you over. I told you. If you leave, you're not going to hear me out, right? It's all about Spicy says no. Oh, Griffin not happy either. Sean, you guys are not. Oh, my goodness. I've not lost it. I'm going to win you guys. You guys are all out. Every one of you are out. We got Ivan says, you got to leave a comment. Thank you for the super chat, but you got to leave a comment. I'll get it up there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, you guys are all out on this one. But you told me you would give me a chance here. You told me you'd give me a chance. And you guys are bailing on me. Oh my God, we're under 200 now. What the heck? 10 people left in the chat, says 10. Oh, Heat Inferno. Here we go. Come on. I'm going to win you over on Hugh Jackson. You believe it or not, I'm going to do it. All right, let's get into Hugh Jackson. All right? So far, you're not real happy with my picks. Callahan, Keith Carter, you're not happy with any of them. And I thought you might be a little bit more happy with Hugh Jackson. Apparently not. I was wrong. Hugh Jackson. Okay. So I love the college experience, but that's not why Hugh Jackson makes sense. Hugh Jackson got a bad hand dealt in Cleveland. Can we all agree on that one? Like, when Hugh Jackson went there, I'm telling you, he was failed from the start. He should have never took that job. That's on him, but it's a head coaching job, so they're very hard to pass. He was failed. He had one of the worst owners in the game. Nothing really went his way whatsoever, and he was out, okay? And you guys are really, really upsetting me here because you're not going to give me a chance to defend myself, and it's so frustrating. Okay, here we go. So he had 4 seasons of being an NFL head coach. He knows a ton about offense, a ton. Here's why he makes sense. Here's why he makes sense. If you go back and look at where he failed, okay? If you go back and look where he failed, let's start in Washington, 2003. I'm defending myself right now. Let's go. So Washington, 2003. You know who his head coach was that he was under as offensive coordinator? Spurrier. Oh, come on. You know why that failed. He didn't make it in the NFL. He was a great college coach, not a good. So Urban Meyer, you guys in here about Urban Meyer, come on, okay? That's point one. With people that don't do very well, okay? So when you put them in the Oakland system, you know with the owner and all that thing, right? Just win, baby, all that stuff. You know, he was fired in Oakland for going 8-8. 8-8. Jeff Fisher. How many years did he go 8-8? He kept getting opportunities, right? And he's the only coach right now in Titans Oilers franchise history to take a team to the Super Bowl. Whether you agree or not with him, it's true. So, again, he did okay as a coordinator in Oakland, got a head coaching job out of it. They only gave him a year. He was out. Here's why Hugh Jackson makes perfect sense. Bengals. Hugh Jackson interviews, and he says after he was fired, he should have never took the job. He should have just stayed in Cincinnati, okay? Marvin Lewis might get one more shot in this league. And now we can go back and look at Cincinnati, and we're like, oh my gosh, what a train wreck Marvin Lewis had to deal with. Marvin Lewis was there for how many years? 14, 15 years, it seemed like. And he didn't have one playoff win. And I think a lot of us got on Marvin Lewis. But honestly, he at least was keeping Cincinnati at least in the conversation. And he had some really good years in Cincinnati, even though he didn't have the big playoff win. So when Hugh Jackson goes there, he wins 20. He's a part of this offense. And remember, the offense kind of took off. 22 wins, 9 losses, and 1 tie. He was 12-4 his last year in Cincinnati. He was 10-5-1 his first year in Cincinnati. He was 6th in rushing in 2014. 6th in rushing. Okay, that's not terrible. And then in 2015, I'm going to give you some stats here in a minute, and this is going to seal the deal, and you will be on board with hiring Hugh Jackson as our offensive coordinator. The deal is this. He used Hill and he used Bernard. He used them as a combo pack. You know, going forward, when teams stop Derrick Henry like the Ravens do, it would be nice to have an alternative running back that can go out there and do something, whether you get him involved in the screen game or you maybe even get him involved with throwing a pitch toss, and I don't even like the pitch toss for the Titans, but you could run that a few times with Evans. Why wasn't Evans even in the game on offense? Like, seriously, that falls a little bit on Arthur Smith just as much as it does on Vrabel. Besides the point. Here comes the dagger. Here comes where I'm going to break your hearts, and you're coming with me for Hugh Jackson as number 2. Okay? 2015 was the height of the Hugh Jackson career. Look what he did with Cincinnati. Who was their starting quarterback? Dalton. 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Right now, Ryan Tannehill, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Running back, Hill. 794 yards, 11 touchdowns. Derrick Henry had 17 touchdowns, but here's the point. He didn't just put it all on one player. He was able to use multiple running backs. And going forward with Derrick Henry, trying to save him for the next couple years, you can't just give him 400 carries next year and the year after that. He's not going to last that much, right? We're lucky that Derrick Henry at this point in his career hasn't necessarily had the miles on him because DeMarco Murray was playing. And then we also had even Deion Lewis taking his carries when your guys' favorite offensive I'm kidding. Matt LaFleur was here. Okay? But here is why he totally makes sense. A.J. Green, 1,297 yards, 10 touchdowns. Marvin Jones, 816 yards, 4 touchdowns. And Tyler Eifert, 615 yards, 13 touchdowns. If you're talking about the Tennessee Titans and how we're going from point A to point B next year and hopefully going up, shouldn't you get Corey Davis involved more? I think this guy can do it. We already seen what he can do with the talent as A.J. Green. You got A.J. Brown. And then look at the tight end. That would be one issue I would have with Arthur Smith. He never got the most out of Jonnu Smith. Is it Jonnu Smith's fault? It could be. Is it because Lewan went out? It could be. But you got Tyler Eifert in the red zone, 13 stinking touchdowns. That's why this guy makes sense. Again, you're trying to bring in an offensive coordinator. You're trying to bring somebody into the equation. And your Super Bowl window is now for the next couple years. Hugh Jackson wouldn't be going anywhere. It's not like he's going to get this job in Tennessee and then the next year bail and go be a head coach. He's learned his lesson. This would be a prime spot for him. And plus, I would love to have a little bit of a conversation with him and Vrabel in a room. Both guys know football through and through. Be a great conversation. I'm just telling you, this guy's worked with Dalton before, and look what he's done with Dalton. What do you think he can do with Ryan Tannehill? What do you think he can do if Corey Davis does come back? That's my point. That's my point. Whether you agree or disagree, I can't wait to hear from you. We still have 207 of you in here. But Hugh Jackson making the top 5 list, I'm telling you, I'm super thrilled with him. Again, I understand his failures. But again, I gave you kind of why he failed. He did not surround himself with the right people around. And he put himself in a difficult position. If he doesn't take here's why this makes sense. If he doesn't take the Cleveland job and he comes back to Cincinnati and he's doing something like he's done his 2014, 2015 with a 22-9 record, everybody would want him. You just don't like him because of what happened in Cleveland. You just don't like him because you've heard stories of what happened in Oakland, or you heard stories of what happened in Atlanta, or you heard stories that possibly happened in who knows where that was portrayed in Washington. But I'm telling you, the guy's got experience, and that's going to value a lot for me. And I don't think Hugh Jackson would have Marvin Lewis vouching for him that if he becomes a head coach and he's only going to get one more shot at it, the one guy that you have to bring on the staff is Hugh Jackson as offensive coordinator. That says a lot about Hugh Jackson. That says a lot about him. You're going to get one more shot in the NFL and their whole career depends on it. And they are vouching to bring in somebody like Hugh Jackson. All right. So we got one more. All right, one more. Here we go. My number one. Oh, we got the number one. We can do a little drum roll here. Oh, I'm fired up. Let me get my notes on this guy. Oh, my. Well, I think we'll all agree with number one. He's my number one. If I was the GM, if I was Coach Vrabel, which I'm not, I'm calling the guy like ASAP. I'm calling him tomorrow. He'll be hired. He'll be in a Titans room talking Titans with your head coach and some of these other guys. But this is my guy. And there's a connection. There's a connection here. So we're talking about a guy who worked with Jeff Fisher, the legendary Jeff Fisher himself. And I'm being a little sarcastic here, but it continues on. No, it's not Freddie Kitchens. It's not Freddie Kitchens. Oh, my goodness. All right, here we go. Are you ready? Number one, Oiler Titan. It's not Doug Peterson. It's not Doug Peterson, all right? If Doug Peterson on the list, Anthony Lynn probably would have been on the list too, but I just don't see them guys getting right back into coaching just yet. I think both of them will take a year off, spend with their families, get rejuvenated, and then be back on the trail for next year. Here we go. Who is number one? Oh, this is fun. And then part of the reason why I want this guy even more now is because of who else wants him, and that's Pittsburgh. So if Pittsburgh wants him really, really bad, then I gotta give this into a little bit more thought. So number one goes to Brian Schottenheimer. Yeah, why would you bring in Brian Schottenheimer? He was fired. Come on. Don't buy the garbage. He wasn't fired because it was his fault. Pete Carroll needed someone to take the fall. He's a fall guy. He was brought in to do a job. His two jobs to do: work with Wilson, check mark. Wilson in the first half of the season was your clear MVP. And then something happened in the second half. Everybody doesn't want to blame Wilson. Nobody wants to blame Pete Carroll. They all want to blame this guy. Don't fall for it, okay? Moving on. The second thing he was supposed to do, rejuvenate that rush attack. I mean, you're bringing back Marshawn Lynch for what reason? I mean, that's your best alternative to bring a guy back who's been retired? This isn't Michael Jordan coming back with number 45 and then figuring it out, changes his number to 23 and then winning 3 more titles. No. So, again, if you're going to blame him because your rush attack isn't great, well, here's the problem, or here's the good thing. If that's your argument against me, hey, we can't have this guy come in because he didn't do really good with the rush attack. We got the stinking number one rush attack in my eyes, right? We got the 2,000-yard rusher. He'll be able to do wonders with him. Seattle did play action. Seattle threw it deep. How many times were we begging Ryan Tannehill against the Ravens to throw it deep? This guy's our offensive coordinator, will bring in new ideas. He will kind of bring and explode the passing game. You're going to need to go out and get another receiver. You need to re-sign Jonnu Smith or bring in a tight end, right? But Brian Schottenheimer should come in. Yes, he can focus a little bit on the run, which I don't think is an issue here. But he's got the experience again, and he even went back to college. 2015 was offensive coordinator for Georgia. So, I mean, he's got a lot of versatility when you're talking about new ideas, understanding players. I think that's a big part of it. The communication. If you look at what Arthur Smith, Ryan Tannehill puts a nice post out there on him because it is about relationships. Hugh Jackson, number 2, I already mentioned. He wants, he's got Marvin Lewis vouching for him. It's all about relationships, okay? Some of these guys that keep coming up, they don't have any relationships. Nobody's vouching for them. So I think when we look at Adam Gase, for example, like, you guys want to throw him out there. You're going to take Adam Gase over Hugh Jackson? Like, really? Because Peyton Manning said so? I mean, Peyton Manning is a disaster trying to hook up teams with. He's ruined, basically, until they hired Flores down in Miami. He ruined Miami, and then he went up to the Jets, and oh my goodness, he ruined them too. So luckily, the Jets got a good coach now from San Francisco that hopefully, and then they'll have the number 2 pick. What they do with it, who knows? But I'm going Schottenheimer. And again, I was going back between him and Hugh Jackson. I really was. And you guys probably think I'm nuts, but I'm serious. So why Schottenheimer? 9 years experience. 7 of those years as an assistant with the 9 years assistant experience as a quarterback. So he could be a quarterback guru. He was brought in to help Wilson. I mean, most of us are thinking, why does Wilson even need any help, right? So I think he's going to be able to expand on what Arthur Smith was doing. To be honest, guys, like, he's got more experience than Arthur Smith does as far as calling offensive court, like with him being offensive coordinator and stuff like that. So 12 seasons, Jets, Rams, Seahawks. You know, you go back and you might look at the Jets and be like, oh, gosh, he's with the Jets. But remember, a couple of those years, I believe the Jets went to the AFC Championship game, and I think they fell to like Peyton Manning and all that other stuff. So, again, you're taking a 9-7 team and going to the AFC Championship game. Who does that sound like? Oh, yeah, a couple years ago, Arthur Smith did that, right? And Arthur Smith just got hired by the Falcons. I know the Georgia thing didn't work out for him. He was there one season. He did go 10-3 as the offensive coordinator, but you should see who the starting quarterback was. Go back and look who started quarterback in 2015 for Georgia. There's your reason why that failed. Guys, Luck didn't play any of those years. That's why they were 4-12. You can't just pin it all on this guy. And besides, if it was, why did Pete Carroll take him from the Colts? Why? Pete Carroll's respectful, right? He's a respectable head coach. Oh, I'm getting fired up. But I like Brian Schottenheimer. I think he would come in with some new ideas. I told you earlier, Steelers fans love this guy. They think he would be awesome in Pittsburgh to rejuvenate not just Big Ben if he comes back, but to get that running attack going. So he's got something there that people are wanting to dive in and get through. Again, this guy, he's not going to fail. Like, he'll come here, and if you look at what Seattle's done the last couple years, it's been pretty good. But again, like, who is a dominant running back? I mean, Penny, what has he really done? Like, you know, there isn't so much of a focus there. And some of you will be like, well, you know, you guys discount DK Metcalf. I do it too. You're like, oh, well, DK Metcalf shouldn't have made the top 100 list. A.J. Brown should have. And I completely agree with you. But he's working with DK Metcalf. So if you don't think he's good and he's getting top 100 from the players and he's making the All-Pro or the Pro Bowl team for a couple years or whatever, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So my point is this, just think what he could do with A.J. Brown, the one we all think is better than DK Metcalf. All right, so again, my top 5, you agree, disagree. I'm going to take a lot of heat for some of these, but you know what? If you want to tell me on some of these you agree with, let me know. It'll build my confidence up, that's for sure. So let's get into your comments. Thanks for getting through. 203 people, we've made it through. So again, I don't even know where to start. Sarcastic. But seriously, you go back and look at 2014, 2015. And again, if you're going to tell me Andy Stinkin' Dalton was like this great Mahomes or was like a Lamar Jackson or an Andrew Luck, a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, give me a break. I mean, he did a really good job, and it's the Bengals for crying out loud. Like, Marvin Lewis never won one playoff game. And I think for the fact is, like, he realizes just how great Hugh Jackson really was. And, you know, Hugh Jackson's been out. And I mentioned this earlier. Sometimes when you fail at things, you can come back and be better. Ryan Tannehill, I'm not saying he failed in Miami, but you don't think that's rejuvenated his career a little bit? All the stuff he's learned in Miami. You don't think Derrick Henry, by losing the starting job to Dion Lewis, we didn't say, all right, Derrick, let's get rid of you, even though J-Rob tried to trade you, is supposedly the rumor. You know, Derrick learns from that. I think coaches do too. So I'm pretty excited. You know, and I don't think Hugh Jackson comes here because if he does, I think he would go with Marvin Lewis. And until Marvin Lewis is officially out of all the head coaching runnings, which I'm not sure if he's in any, but I know there was some talk about him going some places. I think Hugh Jackson then would be a possibility there. But again, if Hugh Jackson's looking to come work in a very positive environment, a great owner, a team that's going to treat him right, team first, if he can handle Vrabel and get along with Vrabel, which I don't know if they have any experience or anything together, that would be the one thing I would say, like, maybe that would work out, you know? I mean, Buddy Ryan worked out for a little bit, didn't he, as defensive coordinator? I mean, he won a Super Bowl with the Bears. Tannehill can improve even more with the right OC. Well, Travi, here's the question. Did any of these OCs I mentioned tonight get it right? That's the question. Sauce Monster, who do we draft? Let's see. Darren says we would never even think about cutting Byard. Yeah, I don't think we would. And I don't think Byard's even going to be asked to renegotiate his contract or anything or restructure it. Byard was a good tackler, so you guys are talking more about the Falcons fan here. What should we expect from Arthur Smith? What's up, Steele? Here's the deal. Don't buy the media crap, because the media wants to paint the image that Arthur Smith was only hired because of his dad. That's crap. And the reason why we know it's crap, you can ask any Titan fan in the house here, is because of the fact that Arthur Smith has been through multiple coaches. He's survived in Tennessee, and every new coach who came in was like, yeah, I'd keep that Arthur Smith guy, because they knew how hard he worked. You know who vouched for him the most and who probably got him this job? Mike Mularkey did. So again, Mike Mularkey, if you're thinking of anything, he replaced Mike Mularkey, I believe, as tight ends coach when Mularkey became the head coach or whatever. If you look at that, you're like, well, why would he even try to help anybody in the Titans organization? Like, he stayed. But there's a respect thing there. Everybody loves to work with Arthur Smith. So, again, the only thing that concerns me about him is he's going to have to – I think you got the right GM. I like the guy from the Saints. But you got to draft well, because you're getting a little bit older. I'm not sure much longer you're going to depend on Matt Ryan. I'm not sure how much longer Julio Jones stays. So him picking the Falcons, I just feel like he better do something quick, because if he doesn't, I'm not sure he's going to be given the amount of time he deserves. But thank you, Steele, for the comment. All right. Can we talk about, we are going to do an episode on free agents. We are going to do an episode on defense. Bring back Mike Munchak. He was a good offensive line coach, actually, and he's with, the Broncos now? But Steelers realized how great he was as an offensive line coach. He totally transformed the Steelers. So I do give him credit. He was just not a very good head coach. Spicy says Hugh Jackson was done wrong. So thank you for at least somewhat agreeing with me here. I don't know if you guys are still buying in with Hugh Jackson. I know a lot of you are not sold on the Callahan thing, and I get that. I mean, Callahan was in the top 5. He's number 4. But again, offensive coordinator, if you're looking for someone who knows that offensive line, can improve the offensive line, and can actually take Henry to the next level, then I think it might be some guy like Callahan. Because I think he might be able to adjust more than what Keith Carter did, or even what Arthur Smith did. Arthur Smith has a lot of experience too, but when you compare him to Callahan, I mean, it's not even close. Now, I'm not saying I think Arthur Smith was a better coordinator. I thought Arthur Smith is a head coach in Atlanta for a reason, but I'm just talking about experience. Let's see. I met Delaney once at a club in Nashville. What's going on, Tyler? It'd be nice to have Delaney back just as some kind of help. Doesn't matter who we hire. Alex says we're going to be 9-7. We do got a tough schedule. We'll do an episode on that as well. Spicy Curry says 11-5. What happened to Mariota? The guy looked good coming out of. He did, and you know what? He still won. He's got as many playoff wins as Lamar Jackson. I know I'm gonna say it, but he does. And like I said, he just. I'm not sure what it was. I think injuries kind of did him in. And I think the other thing that hurts is the poor guy. No one can ever get his name right. They keep calling him Mariota or Mariotto or something like that. They just never could get Mariota right. Jameson with a super chat. He says, good sell on Jackson with those 2015 stats. Got my mind spinning on him. Hey, you didn't need a super chat, Jameson, but I do appreciate it, man. But again, I was the same way. Trust me, I'm with you. I want I'm not just throwing guys out to spit guys out. I took this thing seriously. I went in. I did my stinking research. I put a lot of time into this. There's a reason why I wasn't live last night. There's a reason why I wasn't live Sunday night, right? We did the watch along on Saturday, but there was a reason why I wanted to get this right. But you got to realize things change all the stinking time. And again, I had Kraft on my list. I had McDaniel on my list. And both of these guys, the news changed before I could finalize and go on the air. One of the worst things is to do for me just to go forward and say, yeah, we're going to, number 2 on my list is McDaniel, and he's on the 49ers. No, I'm not going to do that like that. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to us. And again, you're going to put the time in. You got to get it right. So, again, Hugh Jackson's one of those guys that he hasn't been in the media for a while. He's a guy under the radar. People don't realize how good he was at offensive coordinator. We get too invested in, he failed in Cleveland as a head coach. Guys, we're not asking him to be a head coach. The question Falcons fans are coming in right now and asking us is, what are we getting in Arthur Smith? We know he's a great offensive coordinator for the last couple of years, but what are we getting in as far as head coach? I tell you, the players love him. They respect him. I know he had that little falling out with A.J. Brown where he started cussing at him when A.J. Brown slipped and fell, but they worked it out. Everybody makes mistakes. But the deal is, we're not asking Callahan. We're not asking Matt Wise. We're not asking Hugh Jackson or Brian Schottenheimer to come in to be the head coach. We got a head coach. We're asking him to come in, be the offensive coordinator. Matt says, upload Mason Kinsey's. Okay, you should bring him back on the show. We'll see. I just got word that where Mason played college at Berry College that they're going to come back and play this year in like April. And I know his brother plays on that team, but no fans. So that's unfortunate. Let's see. Great show again, bro. Love the show. Always tighten up, lock it down, Chuck. Hey, hopefully I didn't hurt too many people out there with my my top 5 for offensive coordinators. I think the one you guys were most upset or unhappy with was Callahan. And I think a lot of you thought I was crazy with the Hugh Jackson at first, but hopefully at least made a little bit of sense with Hugh Jackson. But thank you so much, Chuck. Brandon says we need a third down defense. Jameson's agree for the entertaining stream tonight. Thanks, Jameson. Appreciate it, man. It's good to have you back on the channel, man. I know you have been here for the beginning. I think you were here early in the beginning of Titan Upload. So always a good time when you're here, buddy. Tyler said, Steve, I bet we can for cheap. And then I love the big trust King Henry pair up. And then get Isaiah Wilson's mom on the show. You never know. All right. But if we bring her on, I don't know. Can we bring the girlfriend on too? I mean, that might be kind of, we could ask them what happened. You know, nobody really got to the bottom of that when they were on draft night. So, dude, we got to get Barrett, says LAFLXME. All right. Thank you again. And Brandon, thanks as well. And Swan as well. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. 242. And Steve says no cap room. And Tyler says bring in Ingram. Saw says Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen, Shaq Barrett, Kareem Hunt are some free agents as well as Chris Jones. A lot of these guys will probably be franchise tagged, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Thanks for the update, though, Sauce. And then we'll leave it with this. Dre the Barber, just tuning in. If you can go over the top 5 one more. Oh, I would love to. And Dre, please, you're not going to get to hear me out why I picked these guys, but here we go. All right, so we'll start from the top. We'll run it down. We'll play it back. We'll do what we got to do. My number 1 was Brian Schottenheimer. And again, I love this guy because of why he was brought into Seattle, and he was a fall guy. That's why he was replaced. And his quarterback experience, thanks, Weeze, with Indianapolis over the last couple years was when Andrew Luck wasn't playing. He was hurt. So then Pete Carroll went out and got this guy and says, you know what? You come to Seattle, you're going to help our rush team, and you're going to help work with Wilson. Honestly, he didn't do the rush very well, but he didn't really have – I mean, they went out and tried to get Marshawn Lynch in the midseason, right? But they didn't have – I don't think they had a – they invested too much other than Penny, I think, from San Diego State. They didn't really invest a lot into that position, but he did wonders for Wilson, and Wilson was already great when he went there. But Brian Schottenheimer – would bring us a lot of versatility, and he has 12 years of offensive coordinator experience, which I think is always a good thing, especially when Vrabel's an offensive or defensive coach. So that was Carter. Then we moved on to Hugh Jackson, and a lot of people weren't really sure on Hugh Jackson, but again, the stats on Hugh Jackson were, look what he did in Cincinnati. Don't look at what he did in Cleveland. When his last season in Cincinnati, his quarterback was Dalton, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He had a running back combo of Hill and Bernard. 2014, when he was there, the year before, they were 10-5-1 and had the 6th overall rushing team. And the next year, he was 12-4 as the offensive coordinator there. And Green put up almost 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. Jones was a nice combo. I think of Green and Jones as almost like Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. Jones put up 816. So combined, they were over 2,000 yards. And combined, they had 14 touchdowns. And then you bring in Eifert, who was the tight end, had 13 touchdowns. Just think about Jonnu Smith. That was kind of the path he was going on. So I think what he's capable of doing, when he failed, he obviously failed in Cleveland. He failed in 2003. He failed in 2007, but his coaches were Spurrier and Petrino. Like, we know why he failed. Don't judge him on his failures. Everybody fails at one time or another, and nobody's perfect. Michael Jordan came back. He was 45. It didn't work out very well. And we already mentioned Abraham Lincoln on the show. So that was 2. Then we move on to Matt Weiss, and I know a lot of people don't know much about him, including myself. I tried to really dive into this. He was my young and up-and-coming candidate. He spent the last 12 seasons and only the 12 seasons in Baltimore. But what I love about him is in Baltimore, he was wide receivers coach. He was running backs coach over the last few years, but he was also the cornerbacks coach. He was also the linebackers coach. He had Elvis Dumerville. He had 17 sacks that year. Suggs had another 12. They had 29 sacks combined. He was the linebackers coach. And then he also has been a part of the defense. So he's going to see it multiple ways. And isn't that what Vrabel wants? Versatility, this philosophy under Vrabel. This would be an interesting pick. Then we move on to number 4, Bill Callahan. I lost a lot of you with this pick. I might have lost like 30 subscribers over this. I'm just kidding. But Bill Callahan, to me, is a conservative pick at 4. But if you're looking to expand on that run game, I think he learned a ton last year working for Cleveland. And I think, with Stefanski, I think he's learned that when you go into, it's all about matchups. And again, he's got the head coaching experience. I think he would be able to hold his own against Vrabel. He wouldn't just listen to Vrabel all the time. I think he would put up, obviously he's going to follow what Vrabel wants to do. He's the head coach. But my point is this. He's not going to be afraid to speak his mind, and he's got the experience. So if Vrabel, I feel like, can trust him with his experience. You guys have mentioned he's way too conservative, and that's fine, but that's why he's number 4 and not number 1. And then number 5 is Keith Carter. If you're going to hire within, and I researched these guys, some of you want more of the wide receivers coach because you feel like he can come in and do some things, and maybe he can. But I think the guy that's going to fit the experience, what he can do with the offensive line, and what he's improved with the offensive line, because he wasn't great when he first got here, is Keith Carter. But, guys, if he fails, there's nobody else. And that's why I would stay away with going anywhere in-house. And I mentioned this too. Arthur Smith was brought in 2019. And the Titans had Mariota as their starting quarterback. They were trying to learn. And again, they've been through so much. They just did LaFleur. But the problem with Arthur Smith and why, or not the problem, but I think the reason why they went in-house and felt comfortable is because they weren't expecting to go to Super Bowl that year. Like, they were just hoping to get to the playoffs. They fell short the year before. They lost Indianapolis in the play-in game, basically, right? Mariota was hurt. I think they tried to go outside of the box. It didn't work out. So they went with something more in-house, and it actually worked. Can they strike gold twice with Keith Carter? He does make the list, but can it happen? So anyways, you guys were great. Thanks again. We got a Brit, Stop the Cap, Titan Upload. I'll follow the Insta. Love the stream. Hey, thanks so much, Sauce, and thanks for being here. We need Kenny Britt. Schottenheimer is the best option for the Titans, says John. And let's see. Beal's in the house. We already had the talk upload about bringing that receiver back. Oh, you're talking about Mason Kinsey. Tommy says Jay Gruden. Euler says love Rondale Moore. Colin, we need to speed the offense, stretch the field. Rondale Moore would be a great pick in the draft. And then Dre the Barber says, love the guy from Clemson, their offense. Yes, and we reached out to him, Dre, but and so did maybe the Jets and some other teams, but he is staying at Clemson. And we also mentioned I would have had Mike Kafka, quarterback's coach from the Chiefs, Anthony Lynn, who just was fired from the Chargers, Doug Peterson, who's recently fired from the Eagles, and then we also mentioned McDaniel from the 49ers. McDaniel and Kafka are staying, so they're no longer available, and I just don't think Anthony Lynn and Doug Peterson just jump right back into it. I think possibly they hang out for another head coaching job right away, which doesn't look like they're going to get one at this point. But I think they'll kind of rejuvenate, and then they'll be back next year. But that's just my opinion. Who knows? But both of those guys would be quality guys too. All right, guys, you guys were awesome. Again, thanks so much for your time. If you could tighten up that like button or like the like button on your way out. Don't forget, I will be back on Sunday night for a live stream watch party between the Chiefs and the Bills. Wish it was the Titans, but it'll be a lot of fun, so I hope you guys can join us then. And don't be shocked if we maybe come back on Saturday night or sometime within. I got a video that I've been working on, so I'm hoping that will drop in the next couple days. No guarantees with that, but I've been putting a lot of thought into it. And then the next thing I would say is we are getting into the defensive coordinator. So maybe this week at some time we could do something on the defensive coordinator. We got the roster stuff coming out. There's just so much Tennessee Titans. There's the draft. We saw Broshmo in here today, so shout out him for the super chat. And we'll break this all down. So you guys were awesome. Thanks again, and tighten up.
I'm Titan Upload, and you're watching Fan to Fan Network, the voice that fans deserve. Tighten up.